Now, a retired general takes on a new mission. Over the past few months, economics correspondent Paul Solman has been reporting on the tensions in Louisiana between energy production, jobs, and environmental concerns. Tonight, he looks at a most unlikely battle that's been playing out on that front. It's part of our regular series, Making Sense.
Our greatest gift has become our problem.
General Russel Honore earned 3 stars during his Army career and a lot of nicknames. The Ragin' Cajun.
Don't get stuck on stupid, reporters.
The Black John Wayne.
Hey, weapons down! Weapons down, damn it!
The Category 5 General.
The next 24 hours will be critical to us as we are trying to evacuate the approximately 25,000 people at the convention center.
Honore had commanded the 2nd Infantry Division in Korea, saw action in Operation Desert Storm, was commanding general of the 1st U.S. Army.
Hey, Tiger. Hey, Tiger, let's go.
But it was his service in 2005 as commander of the Joint Katrina Task Force that won him national acclaim. And he says it radicalized him.
I remember flying out from New Orleans on a Navy helicopter, and as we were flying out, I saw these streaks of oil, and I asked the pilots, well, what in the hell is that? He said, General, that's oil derricks that had fallen over. And I said, oh my God.
Louisiana's greatest gift, the basis for its economy, was, Honore suddenly realized, perhaps its biggest problem. The 3-star retired from the Army in 2008, eventually moved back home to his native Louisiana, where he began a new career as an environmental activist. In this TED Talk, for example.
Our coastline is disappearing, and it can be measured by the hour, not the year. Our air is some of the worst in America. And many of the industries we have create high rates of cancer among our people. We must act now, because the future that we fear is here.
The general thinks he knows a disaster when he sees one, and he found plenty in his own backyard, starting with Bayou Corn, about an hour's drive south of Baton Rouge, near a strip of the Mississippi studded with petrochemical plants known as Cancer Alley. On August 3, 2012, Bayou Corn cracked open into a giant sinkhole, leaving an oil-slicked lake. Mike Schaff, an offshore drilling platform worker, had lived in Bayou Corn since the early 90s.
This pipeline right here is where this whole bayou right here was bubbling, little bubbles all over the place. It looked like Alka-Seltz in there.
The bayou sits on what's called a salt dome, which had been mined for decades by a firm called Texas Brine, creating a cavern. What caused the sinkhole?
What caused it was the cavern collapse.
As Nova explained in a 2015 documentary, rock and soil poured in through a breach in the cavern wall, and this in turn sucked the surface down into a massive sinkhole. For months, gas shot out of the vent wells.
But was it dangerous?
Oh, yes. If it got through your cracks in your slab and into your house, then if you threw a light switch on, if your home was filled up with the gas, it would explode the home.
This is the slab of Mike Schaff's home.
That's my house. What's left of it.
It didn't explode. Texas Brine eventually bought out the residents of Crawfish Stew Street, tearing down some houses, moving others, even though Schaff and some neighbors had wanted to stay.
This doesn't look like paradise to people, but it is to me.
A lawsuit led to a settlement with Texas Brine. General Honore had been called in for help.
Everybody knows about him, with the work he's done for Katrina, the work he's done in our military, and now the work he's doing with us.
They said the state's not helping us, the federal government's not helping us, and we created the Green Army to help give voice.
A Green Army of environmental activists. But how to recruit in such a red state?
If I go there and say I'm talking about global warming, nobody's going to listen. They'll get up and walk out.
Because that's such an ideological trigger.
Right. It's fake news, it's hoax. Well, we got pollution.
Which is why the general has taken to the speech circuit to make the larger case.
How many people like clean air? How many people like clean, safe water? How many people like their crawfish without any oil on them?
We contacted the state's 5 largest industry groups about General Honore's comments. All declined an on-camera interview, but in a joint written statement, 3 of the groups said, quote, "Industry in our state works as a willing partner with the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality, our communities, our partners, and employees to ensure that our most precious assets, our environment and our citizens, are protected. The entire state of Louisiana continues to meet all of the U.S. EPA's national ambient air quality standards." Meanwhile, back on the bayou.
You were and are a member of the Tea Party, right?
That is correct.
So is Mike Schaff enlisting in General Honore's Green Army a harbinger?
Are fellow conservatives like you becoming more environmentally aware?
My barometer on how many of my friends are with me on certain issues is my Facebook posts. I say 80% of the time I post something conservative.
And how many likes do you get on those?
I get many likes. And then when I post something about the environment, I get 4 or 5 likes.
So you're still an outlier in conservative circles.
But I'm not banished. Around here, it's all industry that has got them. The logic that's thrown at the people, including myself, is that if we restrict them or regulate them, then they're going to pick up and move, and we're not going to have those jobs.
But with the jobs may come risks, says Schaff.
Everybody here that passed away while I was here, I lived here for 25 years, died of cancer.
Everyone?
Everyone that died of cancer.
10 out of 100 residents, says Schaff. And Schaff himself has kidney cancer and a sarcoma on his leg.
Who's to know, if it wasn't my lifestyle or anything like that. Now, we have chemical plants along the river about 20 miles that way. But if you want to live in paradise, you have to sacrifice something.
Russel Honore doesn't see it that way.
No, I'm generally pissed off. I spent 37 years, 3 months, and 3 days defending this country. I spent 9.5 years overseas, okay? It's some of the most horrific places you ever want to see and have to work and train. And to come back to my home state and see it controlled by multinational corporations is a crying damn shame. That's the Exxon flag on top of the Capitol.
Is that the Exxon flag? No.
Okay, physically it's not, but mentally it is.
Now, Honore's beef isn't with ExxonMobil in particular. It's with the entire industry.
They own the legislature. Right. The companies do. Less regulation brings you more pollution.
But it also brings you more growth.
Well, you don't see that growth bearing out because we're the 3rd largest energy producer and we're the 2nd poorest state.
ExxonMobil had no comment. In their joint statement, the 3 industry groups said, "There are many voices speaking on behalf of Louisiana families, workers, and businesses at the Capitol. They all have an important role to play in the democratic process. We are proud of our efforts to promote free enterprise and economic growth on behalf of Louisiana employers and entrepreneurs of all sizes working to improve our great state."
Enough is enough.
But General Honore is paying a price for his activism. For example, his work in St. Rose, Louisiana, where residents were sickened by emissions from a plant operated jointly by a company called IMTT and Shell Oil. 2 months later, says Honore, he was asked to resign from the board of Crawford & Company, an insurance claims manager.
The chairman said, "We have a pending contract with Shell." And they said they won't give us that contingency contract if you're on our board. You've got to look out for the employees here, General. I said, "Well, you're right." And that May meeting was my last meeting.
Crawford & Company had no comment, and Shell told us the matter was under investigation. As for the general, he's undeterred.
I'm still in this fight, and it's not over, and one of these days we'll get them.
For the PBS NewsHour, business and economics correspondent Paul Solman, reporting from Louisiana.